They laughed first with their eyes, then with their whispers, and finally with the careless confidence of people who believed they were safe in their judgments. On the very first morning she walked into the hospital wearing her slightly oversized scrubs, head lowered, steps measured. No one imagined that the quiet new nurse would become the center of a moment that would shake the entire building to its foundation. No one imagined that before the day was over, the sky itself would thunder open, and a Navy helicopter would descend like fate, demanding the combat professional they never saw standing among them. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a second and ask yourself something simple. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of people being more than what they seem, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your small action helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Her name was Evelyn Carter, and she had the kind of presence that disappeared in a room full of louder personalities. She spoke softly, moved carefully, and listened far more than she talked. At St. Augustine Memorial Hospital, where egos often walked faster than empathy, Evelyn blended into the background like a shadow. She was new, inexperienced in their eyes, and far too reserved to fit the image of the confident, assertive nurses they respected. Her hand sometimes trembled when she charted notes, not from fear, but from a discipline drilled into her long ago to never rush, never assume, never make careless mistakes. But they did not see discipline. They saw weakness. The senior nurses exchanged looks when she struggled to lift a patient on her own, never knowing she was intentionally avoiding strain on an old shoulder injury. A young resident smirked when she triple-checked medication dosages, unaware that once, long ago, a single decimal mistake had meant life or death in a very different environment. Even the head nurse, Margaret Doyle, known for her sharp efficiency, quietly questioned whether Evelyn would last a month. The hospital was unforgiving to those who did not immediately prove themselves, and Evelyn seemed to shrink under the constant, silent evaluation. Evelyn went home each night to a small apartment with bare walls and neatly arranged furniture. There were no photos, no reminders of a past life, except a locked metal case hidden deep in her closet. She would sit on the edge of her bed, remove her shoes with slow precision, and breathe through the ache in her bones that no one knew the reason for. Becoming a nurse had not been her first calling. It had been her second chance at a quieter life, one where she could heal instead of harm, save instead of fight. But the past does not disappear just because you ask it to. Days passed, and the mocking never became loud enough to be openly cruel, but it was constant. The kind of mockery that lived in sighs, in eye rolls, in assignments no one else wanted. Night shifts, understaffed wings, combative patients. Evelyn accepted everything without complaint. She stayed late. She covered shifts. She learned the rhythms of the hospital the way she once learned the terrain of foreign land, memorizing exits, blind spots, and the subtle signals of danger. Her calm during emergencies went unnoticed, because calm was expected, not praised. Then came the night that changed everything. A storm rolled in without warning, the kind that pressed against the windows and made the power flicker. The emergency room overflowed with accident victims from a multi-car collision on the highway. Chaos filled the halls, stretchers lined up, voices overlapping, alarms echoing. Evelyn moved through it all with an eerie steadiness. She stabilized patients, assisted surgeons, and anticipated needs before they were spoken. Still, no one truly saw her. Not yet. In the midst of the storm, a patient was rushed in under heavy security. He was unconscious, badly injured, and accompanied by men who did not wear hospital badges but moved with authority. Their presence alone shifted the atmosphere, but questions were postponed in the rush to save a life. Evelyn was assigned to assist, and as she worked, something in her expression changed. Her eyes sharpened, her posture straightened, and a familiar focus settled over her like armor. She recognized the signs on the man's body, the scars, the injuries, the way his muscles reacted even while unconscious. This was not an ordinary patient. Minutes later, the thunder outside was drowned out by a deeper, more powerful sound. The unmistakable roar of rotor blades cut through the storm, rattling windows and silencing conversations. Staff rushed to the windows as a Navy helicopter descended onto the hospital's emergency landing pad, light slicing through rain and darkness. The building seemed to hold its breath, uniformed officers poured in, urgency written into every movement. They did not ask for permission. They asked for Evelyn Carter. Confusion rippled through the staff. Heads turned. Some laughed nervously, assuming it was a mistake. Margaret Doyle frowned, already preparing to correct whoever had gotten the name wrong. But when the officers' eyes locked onto Evelyn, standing quietly near the nurse's station, the laughter died instantly. They addressed her with a respect no one there had ever shown her, identifying her not as Nurse Carter, but as a Navy SEAL combat professional with a record sealed tighter than the metal case in her closet. The room froze as reality cracked open. Evelyn did not look surprised. She looked tired. It was revealed, piece by piece, that before she ever wore scrubs, Evelyn had served in some of the most dangerous operations overseas. She had been a combat medic, a tactical specialist, someone trained to save lives under fire while taking down threats with ruthless efficiency. The injured man was one of her former teammates, extracted under extreme conditions, and he would not survive without someone who understood his unique medical history and combat injuries. Someone like her. The hospital staff watched in stunned silence as Evelyn stepped forward, shoulders squared, voice steady, and accepted responsibility without hesitation. In that moment, the quiet nurse vanished, replaced by a presence that commanded the room without raising her voice. She coordinated with military precision, issuing instructions that saved precious minutes. Surgeons listened. Doctors followed. No one questioned her. The operation that followed was intense, grueling, and successful. The patient lived. When the helicopter finally lifted back into the storm, taking the injured SEAL and leaving behind echoes of its power, the hospital felt different. Smaller. Humbled. Evelyn stood alone for a moment, rainwater dripping from her hair, exhaustion etched into her face. She had revealed nothing by choice, yet everything by necessity. In the days that followed, the whispers changed. Respect replaced ridicule. Apologies came quietly, awkwardly, some sincere, some born of embarrassment. Margaret Doyle approached Evelyn with eyes full of regret, acknowledging how wrong she had been. Evelyn accepted it with grace, not because she needed validation, but because she understood something they did not. People often mock what they cannot imagine surviving. Evelyn continued working at the hospital, just as quietly as before. She did not seek attention. She did not share stories. But now, when she walked the halls, people noticed the strength in her calm, the depth behind her silence. Patients felt safer. Colleagues trusted her instincts. And those who once mocked her learned a lesson they would never forget.